focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
All right, time now for our next panel, which is titled Beyond the Norm, Redefining Innovation for Progress. And it is dedicated to Hyderabad's emergence as a city of innovation, poised to reshape India's economic landscape.
Without wasting any more time, I can't help but start with you, Mohit. I know for a fact that, Godavari Drugs, which you help run, there are some key focus areas that you look at as far as the R&D aspects of the company are concerned. How do you think innovation is powered at the R&D business in order to ensure that your business keeps moving forward?
I think the larger R&D in terms of pharma industry, can be broadly defined into two parts. One is development of new products, of which Mr. Satish Reddy and Dr. Sai Prasad have spoken enough. The second segment of the R&D, what the country needs to focus on, or is rather focusing on already, is redefining the applied sciences, which is the engineering, redefining the processes by improving the processes in terms of cost efficiency, in terms of safety efficiencies, in terms of green technologies where we are more conscious towards the environment, and manufacturing at a larger scale, the quantum as we talk of. So this is what we are focusing on. And this definitely fuels should be fueling the next round of growth.
Absolutely. And manufacturing at that scale, I'm sure, leaves plenty of potential for innovation. And we'll come to that in just a bit. But before I get any further, Dr. Baruri, I have to ask you, as a company on the cutting edge, really, when it comes to enterprise digital transformation, I'm just curious, do you think companies in sunrise sectors in Hyderabad, I know they're faced with two options when they embrace digital transformation, when they embrace innovation. It can only be one of two things. Do you feel the step-by-step incremental potential is what they would rather face? And do you think it's a process of simple improvement? Or do you, on the other hand, think that embracing digital transformation and this big change of innovation, at least from their perspective, could, on the other hand, hamper business growth, at least in the near term? It's got to be one of the two, at least in the near term. Which one is it?
Thank you, YES Bank and CNBC-TV18. I think I would actually put it in one sentence, right? I think you should have a mindset of disruptive digital shift, but the approach should be incremental, right? It can't be one, because it depends on the size of the company, size of the sector, the location, the people you have, and all those things, right? I think sunrise sector is inherently innovative. Right? Innovations are easily accepted by the people, right? And being a sunrise sector, you have a lot of competition. You have to stay ahead of the curve. To stay ahead of the curve, I think the digital shift has to be rapid. But that doesn't mean that you do a rapid digital shift and fail. What you have to do is start with incremental, get the digital foundations right? When we say digital foundations, it means, I'm talking from IT or any perspective, right? Do I have data in place? Do I have infrastructure in place? Are my processes automated? You have all of them, you have that foundation. Now go big bang and do a disruptive digital shift. I think it's no-brainer. It has to be a combination of both.
And striking that balance, like you said, I think is key to any innovation, at least in keeping in mind both the risks and benefits involved. Mr. Raju, that makes me come to you because it's an interesting case study that we're talking about here. At Fabric Steel Structures, pre-engineered buildings is something that is discussed, I'm sure, on a day-to-day basis. Given that we're talking so much about infrastructure growth as far as the country and its immediate future is concerned, no doubt real estate infrastructure is a very key component of that 30 trillion target that India has. Do you think that pre-engineered buildings will, cards on the table, at face value, have key advantages over older and legacy processes? If yes, quickly enlighten us on what these advantages are and what is the innovation potential really that we're talking about.
You rightly pointed out in the growing economy and this technology moving forward at a faster pace. Definitely, steel buildings are going to take at a very right spot in the construction industry. The basic advantages of steel buildings are you can construct much faster. Now, you can see in Hyderabad, actually, we are talking about Hyderabad, how it is going to be forefront in the technology advancement in terms of construction, technology, biotechnology, and pharma. Yes, in the construction also, the acceptability of steel buildings in high-rise buildings is very good in Hyderabad compared to other cities.
So what is the penetration that we're looking at, and what is the factor of growth, steel versus the older processes?
Yeah, it is year on year, it is increasing.
Okay.
And the growth for this industry is CAGR of 15%. And one of my ex-colleagues spoke about this innovations in this industry. Definitely, we need to see how this penetration of steel construction into infrastructure industry. Going forward, we are going to see a lot of non-availability of skilled manpower. So we design the building as per the custom requirement. All are tailor-made buildings. Then we design, we manufacture, install at site. So these factory-made structures are highly quality controlled, and less manpower is used at site, and much faster construction.
Right. But Dr. Patil, you know, as part of your company, the fact that there's so much innovation that's being spoken about, do tell me, how has Patil Rail Infra helped when it comes to innovation at the Indian Railways?
As you rightly said, rail infrastructure is one of the key drivers for the Indian economy. And very specific to your question on innovation within the rail sector, we could see many examples. The big examples, the COVID threw a challenge of importing wheels. So that's where the innovation came in, and they said that why not we have our own forged wheel plant here.
Right.
And the only obstacle the Indian industry was facing was the long-term contract for this. And that's where the government came up with a 10-year demand, and that's where we have now one of the finest forged steel plant coming in, and coming to Vande Bharat train itself.
Absolutely.
It's again an innovation from within the country, developed by Indian Railways, by Indian engineers, and today it is the poster boy across the world. Today we are already talking about exporting Vande Bharat across. So now coming to specifically to at Patil Rail, we have been focusing a lot on innovation. Let me talk about the digital part of what we do. We have a digital company. We have what we call a startup within the company. Right? So we are now doing cutting-edge systems and solutions for digital monitoring of the rail track.
All right.
So track maintenance has been a very manual-oriented kind of a thing. Right? So you need huge number of people, keymen, what we typically call. They have to go and inspect more than 150,000 kilometers of track, which is becoming very, very difficult, and getting people to do that kind of job. So now we have video monitoring. So we have set up certain condition monitoring. So very high-speed cameras that are attached to the trains. They just go around as the train moves around, and immediately detects what kind of faults are there on the track, and immediately reports and goes to the cloud. We have image processing and artificial intelligence sitting there to tell you that what are the exact defects and where the defects are. So this is one very important thing that we have worked out, and it's now already panned out in the market.
YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance. YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
I need to come back to you, Mr. Mohit. You mentioned a little while ago about how scaling up will be a very critical part of Indian innovation. I can't quite help but think back to the bulk drug park that's supposed to come up at Nakapalli. What will that do for your business, really? Will you see a shift in production capacity closer home to Hyderabad? And does scaling up and catering to demand for an industry at large also, what does it do to the kind of work that you're doing on the infrastructure front, on the innovation front? Are you ready for the scale up, really?
So Yes, I mean, just as like the park coming up at Narkapalli, there are almost all the states in India, the state governments are focusing on creating good industrial parks with, so-called amenities and common facilities which are required otherwise for the industry to provide for themselves. So what it does effectively at a very I would say at a reduced capex, you can still have those facilities and the industries can be more compliant to what the requirements of the day are.
All right.
And of course, volumes, licenses become easier because these are all pre-licensed parks. So your environment clearances, you don't really need to go to public hearings. B2 category, it can happen in a year, which can otherwise take maybe 3 to 4 years. So a lot of advantages of being part of these kind of parks. For example, effluent treatment plant, I mean, from the kind of industry background that we come from, that's a huge challenge. And the cost involved is so high, both from the capital point of view and from the operating cost point of view. Operating cost, yes, the industry has to bear, there's no option. But capex, at least if there can be a common infrastructure which is created and an effective infrastructure which can meet the global demands today. We need to be conscious towards our environment for the next generation, for our own generation,
Right.
while managing the growth.
Right.
So these kind of parks are really going to drive the scale of operations to the next level.
Right.
Coming back to us specifically, I think our manufacturing focus is more towards Maharashtra and Telangana and the bordering areas. So I don't think we are, as a company, looking at Narkapalli right now, but I think these kind of parks overall will definitely help in a big way.
Absolutely. And Dr. Baruri, even as we talk about bringing production capacities closer and, shoring down on our capex, even as we have these capabilities at hand, the fact remains that Hyderabad has this distinct advantage of having tech-centric growth for the longest time now. It's been probably the most familiar story that we've all read about, watched with our own two eyes happen right in front of us. Do you think this serves for an excellent template if India were to achieve its $10 trillion target by 2030? Are there lessons to learn from Hyderabad and its tryst with technology?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you need to look at 4 factors actually, right? You need to look at the regional strengths. I think every region has its own strength, whether it is, in terms of developing pharma, or you go to the port cities to develop logistics, you go to mining for Northeast. But I think, as you said, I think IT is universal, but I think you need to look at the regional strength where you have availability of a lot of talent and educational institutions. I'm sure India is, I think, universally doing it everywhere, right? That's number one, right? I think COVID has also taught us a good lesson that Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities can be a great option in terms of lowering your costs as well, right? People have were used to sitting in ODCs, restricted environments, have gone to their villages with the excellent internet infrastructure that we have, are able to actually work on the client's products and platforms through VPNs and other stuff. So that tells us that you can actually work from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, right?
Absolutely.
Great examples. I think I came to know very, not recently, but at least few years back, is Dehradun is doing extremely well in IT actually, because of its proximity to Delhi and other places, and people want to go there, nice environment, etc. Right? So one is the regional strength. 2 is upskilling and reskilling. I see as an IT entrepreneur and being a digital product engineering services company, I see that people stop learning actually, right? I think skilling, reskilling is very important for the existing workforce, and also taking that skilling to the rural parts of India is very important. I think you need to tell them how to do coding. You need to give them the technological know-how. I think those are very important, right? Third thing is digital infrastructure. I think India has one of the amazing digital infrastructures. Definitely it will aid, whether it is open network digital commerce, where you can use the platform to do any kind of commerce. You have UPI, everything is linked to Aadhaar, and your digital identities are well established. I think These are all very good recipes, right? And government policies, of course,
Sure.
right?
And I'm glad that you make a large part of that answer more about talent, because even as we spoke about or always speak about the tech-centric growth of Hyderabad, I think brain drain was something that we also often associated with this topic of discussion. But it's the reverse today. You're seeing Hyderabad actually attract talent as opposed to losing it. And that's not a claim that I'm making. I think LinkedIn's Future of Work study says it. What do you think has changed?
If you get what you wanted outside in your home country, I think you will come back, right?
Absolutely.
So that's the plain answer or simple answer. So I would say, I think Mr. Srinivas Mahankali was saying that there are 320 global capability centers, right? I think a lot of expats who spend most of the time there are coming up in leadership positions and middle management positions and are enjoying the same kind of comfort, affordability. Their kids have a lot of opportunities to go to educational institutions in Hyderabad, in context to Hyderabad. I think, and then I think we are moving from cost arbitrage to value also, right? So your brain is also stimulated. You get to do a lot of innovation now in India, right? And
the great value addition part that India offers, I think, is probably our greatest export given the times that we find ourselves in today.
Absolutely.
You know, but Mr. Raju, I have to come to you next. Even as we speak about innovation happening day in and day out right in front of our eyes, you represent a sunrise sector in manufacturing that's looking at growth projections of 13% year on year. How do you prepare yourself to match that kind of growth simply in terms of demand? And this rapid scale-up in production, do you see any challenges arising in terms of actually going about meeting this demand and having to scale up production? What are these challenges?
No, as such, there are no challenges, but we can expand, we can put more plants. But the availability of skilled structural engineers and all is becoming really difficult. That is going to be the challenge. Manufacturing front, there is no challenge. So if we can bring in technology, so we do the design, detailing, manufacturing, and installation at site. If we can connect using AI and machine learning to this all independent activities and integrate everything, we can even produce faster.
But very simply, sir, what do you think has changed with regard to how big infrastructure projects were conceived and executed in the past vis-a-vis what's being done today? Surely there must be some change that you're seeing, innovations aside.
There is a dramatic change. Now we have something called as Gati Shakti. I'm sure you know that what it is. Just for the sake of repetition, Gati Shakti is an integrated approach where you have rail, road, and everything integrated, and all the clearances that are required to be taken is on a portal. You know, for example, if you want to build one rail line, you need to have about 10 different clearances. And that was getting stuck in whether it is forest, whether it is land acquisition, or various other statutory clearances. Everything has been integrated digitally, and every information that is needed for any decision maker in various department is all available. And of course, now we have a very strong leadership which has set timelines for clearances.
But I want to very quickly get the last word from three of these gentlemen. Even as Dr. Baruri spoke about how brain drain has pretty much ended because of the talent, the overabundance of talent, I have to ask you, your company does well, make profits, what do you do with them? Invest in enhancing present-day capabilities or look to make new forays? Which would be the way you go forward?
It has to be a combination of both. It can't just be one. We definitely need to survive and sustain and grow on what we are doing today as our strength and venture and explore into new areas as well.
All right. And that's a two-pronged approach that you will take, of course, in keeping with innovation itself. And Mr. Raju, even as India is in the midst of a warehouse boom, we spoke about how consumption has pretty much hit a peak.
Yes.
How do you see, very briefly, warehouses change and evolve in keeping with present-day innovations?
Yeah. We need a lot of warehouses across India, and the material handling efficiencies has to improve to the large extent. We need hub and spoke model across India, from the major cities and major manufacturing hubs to villages, rural areas.
All right.
It is going to grow at a faster pace, and we are working with a lot of warehousing companies as well.
Right. So hub and spoke model in line with the demand that you're seeing moving forward. And the last word to you, Dr. Patil, I know for a fact that even as we talk about all these innovations, one big challenge is the global supply chain situation. We're seeing ebbs and flows. It's gone up, come down, geopolitical issues. are a big deterrent to doing business in a steady manner. How do you navigate these challenges? Maybe 2-3 points, a cheat sheet of sorts to get around them.
Make in India.
That's it?
Absolutely. Make in India, and for the world.
All right. I think being truly Atmanirbhar will solve so many of these problems. And with that, gentlemen, a pleasure speaking to you all. Innovation and progress can, will, and must go hand in hand. And hopefully, we'll be a part of that ever-evolving process. Thank you so very much for these insights.
Thank you.
It's been an engaging conversation.
YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.